On today's episode of What Does It Mean to Be a Young Somebody, we are looking into the profession of subcontracting, particularly in the field of gas fitting. With us here today, we have Anthony Verrelli.
Hi.
And Anthony is going to describe in more detail what it means to be a young gas fitter. So Anthony, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Yana, I'm 24 years old. I'll soon be 25 years old. And I'm working full-time in school, night school 2 days a week, Mondays and Wednesdays for my profession. It's a specialized license that I'm taking. This job to me is just an income for now, but I see myself pursuing a different career years from now, 5 to 10 years from now, I'd say. I love cars. Cars is my true passion, and I love to travel, and I can't wait to travel the world.
Excellent. Why do you do what you do?
Well, at an early age, about 17 years old, I realized that I needed a good income. You know, the more income you have, the faster it is to save, and the faster it is to get out of this rat race. So I really wanted a good paying job and a trade at that. And I did process of elimination. Not carpentry, not plumbing, not electrician, so I chose gas. And it's a good income, and that's pretty much it. I'm saving, investing, and yeah, that's about it.
Very nice. And yeah. How would you describe a typical day or week being a gas fitter?
Well, a day in the week of being a gas fitter. Well, as you know, I work for a utility company. I'm not an employee. I'm a subcontractor for Enbridge. A day in the life is I wake up at about 8 o'clock and my dispatcher calls me and says, Anthony, you know, there's 4 calls today, 5 calls today. And some have appointment time, some do not. So it's my choice when I want to do these calls. That's it. I attend calls, service calls, which is something like changing a gas meter or a regulator or maintaining gas pressure to a customer's home. In the midst of all these calls, I also attend emergency calls, which could be anything like a gas leak, carbon monoxide detection, fire department calls, stuff like that. And I have to make those calls within 45 minutes. So that's pretty much what I do every day.
So what would you say are your main responsibilities?
To accomplish these jobs in the time period that they ask me to. Aside from that, my responsibilities are the customer safety. Because the customer safety is in my hands. They don't know much about this gas equipment, such as a furnace or a water heater. And I'm the last person at that address, so it's in my best interest to make sure everything in that home is up to code and to prevent future carbon monoxide situations where the furnace could be leaking gas, so it's my best interest to inspect the whole house before I leave. And if there's any infractions, I have to issue a tag to say get the work done. We don't actually fix the job. We just tell them, call a contractor, and take it from there. So,
what do you like most about being a gas fitter?
The authority. When I go to an emergency call, and the fire department's there and the police as well are waiting for me to determine what's next, what's the next step to take for the customer safety. And well, for example, if the house is full of gas, I say, okay, you go get this, you go do that, and the firefighter would get like some sort of fan and blow all the gas out, while another what would you call it, a fireman would go upstairs and turn on the vents for the bathroom fans and just air out the house, get it back down to zero. But what I like the most about that is, yeah, being the authority figure where they look up to me. You know, what do we do, right?
Yeah.
So I really like that, the authority, for sure.
Now, to the contrary, what do you dislike the most about being a gas fitter?
Well, this job, or occupation, I guess you can say, is my favorite. I've had 34 jobs in the past, and this is by far my favorite. And so if there's a con to my job is my age in this business. Because, for example, if I go to a customer's home and say you have a gas leak on your home, I'm shutting off your gas, that doesn't sit well with them, especially if it's in the middle of the winter. You know, no heat, no hot water, right? So what I do in that case, though, is I'll say, listen, this is the test that I did, this is the reason why I did it, so I'll basically make them understand why I'm turning off their gas as opposed to just turning off their gas and leaving. Because for all they know, they're like, what does this young guy know? You know? So that's probably a challenge to me, right? But I take care of it pretty well, I think.
Do you notice any major differences being a young gas fitter as opposed to someone who is a senior in this position?
I most definitely do. I don't see the guys I work with often, only in meetings about once every 2 to 3 months, and I'm 24, and the majority I'd say are in their late 40s, early 50s. There's the odd ones that are 28, 29. So it's safe to say I'm pretty much the youngest of the company. And the difficulty in that, I believe, is when I go to a customer's house and say, listen, you have a gas leak on your supply line, your general supply line to your home. And like I said, we don't fix the problems, we just acknowledge them. And I say, listen, you have to get this fixed, and I'm turning off your gas until it is. They have a hard time comprehending that, because if it's in the middle of the winter, for example, they have no hot water and no heat. And they're thinking, what does this young guy know? Are you sure he knows what he's doing? So they second guess my knowledge. But that's when I, throw my knowledge at them and show them, listen, this is why I'm turning it off, and I show them the test I'm actually doing, as opposed to a lot of the senior guys just do the test, shut off the gas, and go home. But I like to explain it better so they have an understanding, right? So that's probably a challenge to me. The biggest challenge. Not too many, but that's one of them.
What was your most challenging task as a gas fitter, and what did you learn from it?
There's not too many challenging tasks. The job itself is pretty repetitive, day in and day out. There's several different jobs, but like I said, they're pretty repetitive. The one task that got me thinking and stressed was, it's quite difficult to explain, but the meter has to be about 3 feet away from a hydrometer. When you install one, it has to be 3 feet from a hydrometer, 3 feet from a receptacle, and 3 feet from any opening to the building, like a window or a door. So I once went to this home turned into an insurance company where the deck was surrounding the meter. That's another infraction, where the meter has to be 12 inches from the ground and easily accessible, so for servicing purposes. So when I got there, the job, when I got to the job, the meter was pretty much buried in the deck. So I had to reconfigure it because there was a gas leak on it. So when I reconfigured it, I had to call a supervisor and say, listen, there's a receptacle to the left, a hydrometer to the right, and a door above that, and a window to the left of that. So it was really hard to get that 3-foot clearance from all components, right? So what I did was I replaced the regulator, which needs 3 feet clearance, to one that only needs 1 foot clearance. And having doing that actually lowered the whole meter even deeper into the deck. So now I had another problem that arose. So I'm stressing out here, calling my supervisor back and forth. And I ended up raising the whole meter set. It's basically hanging on a bracket. So I snapped that off the wall and I raised that up, giving it that gap. And that took some time, but I ended up doing it. And when I first got there, I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this. I was going to relay it to somebody else and get them to do it. But I took it in my hands, I asked for advice, gained the knowledge, and did it myself, and I was pretty proud about it. So, yeah, that was probably the most challenging.
Okay, Anthony, I have a question for you, this one. How do you evaluate success?
How do I evaluate success? Set a goal and achieve it. That goal could be anything from where, I want a glass of wine and you get it, or I want to travel Italy and you end up doing it. Setting a goal and achieving it, that's success to me, on any level.
Describe the last major change you made and why did you do it?
Work ethic. Definitely work ethic. When I first started, I was a little bit slow. Every job I went to, I made sure it was perfect. I didn't mess up even a little bit. That was probably the biggest change, my work ethic, because when you work quicker, you can make more money. I'm in the field where the more work you do, the more money you make. Just because you're on call doesn't mean you're making money. Yeah. So it's in my best interest financially to do more work. That's probably about it, because I've seen a huge difference in income. Went from wherever I was to wherever I am, which is it was a huge jump, definitely. So work ethic, and you know what, the guys in my company, they make about, the most, he works all the time. He makes about $140,000, $150,000 a year, right? Anywhere from 60 to 140. So the only difference between those two people that make 140 and people that make 60,000 is simply the work ethic. So like I said, mine has improved dramatically from the 2.5 years that I've been with the company.
Knowing what you know now about this field before you started, would you still pursue it?
Definitely, 100%. I just wish I knew it earlier.
Why?
Why? Well, the job I love, day-to-day duties. I really do. And there's no flaws to it. Every job has pros and every job has cons. And like I said before, I had 34 jobs. And out of all those, this has the least amount of cons. So, trial and error.
Trial and error. I like trial and error. I like that. Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Share any practical advices for someone looking to get into this field of gas fitting.
Advice. There's two ways of going about it. You could do full-time school or part-time school to get your gas license. Me, personally, I did part-time because I had bills to pay, so I had to go to night school and take that approach. But there's several benefits to taking part-time over full-time. Part-time was cheaper and shorter, surprisingly. So if I were to go full-time, it's more expensive and longer. I recommend part-time 100%, so you can focus on your finances, and your schooling at the same time. Another piece of advice is study yourself. Find out what you like to do. If you're hands-on, if you're not hands-on, because a lot of people that are not hands-on, some people can't swing a hammer. I've been swinging a hammer since I was 8 years old. So it's a job for me, and I knew myself. That's the reason why I chose it. Right? I didn't just want to pick a job out of thin air and say, I'm going to pick this because I like this. How do you know what you want until you know yourself, right? So that's why I chose it. And advice, those are the two biggest things, for sure.
What would you say is your biggest accomplishment?
Buying my house. I was actually supposed to buy a house about a year from now, and according to my plan, my to-do list. And I bought it last April of 2013, and so that means my goals are getting achieved quicker than I thought, and that means the goals that I have set for 2 or 3 years from now are going to come even quicker than they should come. So definitely buying a house. I never thought I'd buy a house so early in my life, at a young age, right? So for sure, that's my biggest accomplishment.
So aside from gas fitting, what do you do as a hobby?
Well, I played soccer for 14 years. Every Sunday night now, men's league, indoor soccer in the winter. I enjoy indoor soccer more than outdoor. Last year I bought a go-kart, a professional racing go-kart. Like, the average go-kart is about, maybe $500 to $1,000. The one I bought was $8,000,
Wow.
to show you the scale of how professional it is. And I've always wanted one. When I was about 8 years old, I went to the racetrack and did the rental cars.
Yeah.
And after the rental cars got off the track, I saw the race cars come on, and they were flying like little mosquitoes.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I said, I have to have one. And I come from a background with no racing experience. My father's not a mechanic, so if it were to break, I have no clue how to fix it. But that being said, it's also an expensive sport too.
Yeah.
But having the job that I have actually provided me the income to do so. And now that I have the truck to trail it around, the income to do it, I said, why aren't I doing it? So I found a good deal and I bought one. So I raced it last year once. This year is going to be 100% every week.
Did you win?
Not winning, no. It's just timing. It's timing
Yeah.
the laps.
Okay,
To shave a second each time off your lap
Very
is
nice.
huge.
Yeah.
Brake later, accelerate quicker, and it's just been my thrill since I was a kid. So definitely going to be doing it full time this year. Every weekend, racetrack, trying to beat that lap time. So that's something I've always wanted to do. So.
If we were to meet 5 years from now, what would have to happen in your life, both personally and professionally, for you to be totally satisfied with your progress?
That's a good question. I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I don't want the 9 to 5 anymore.
Yeah.
I want to be my own boss, 100%. Right now I'm self-employed, but I'm still technically an employee. I abide by a schedule and I wear a uniform, so I'm a subcontractor but somewhat of an employee. And what I'm saying I want to be in 5 years is totally free, doing my own thing on my own terms, getting an income at the same time, and with that income, travel, racing around the world, join tournaments, meet people, socialize, and at the same time see the world. Being single, I think I can squeeze that in there. So, yeah, definitely.
Good. We are now in a basement and Anthony's going to walk us through what a typical emergency call looks like.
So usually when I get a call from dispatch and they say, there's an emergency call at address number blah, 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 I go there and there's a few things I do. While I look at the appliances, the first question I ask is, what appliances do you have that run on gas? And the typical answer is furnace, a water heater, and sometimes a fireplace, stove, dryer, or barbecue. And then from there, I can do my testing. I know it's coming from one or the other. So first thing I do is get rid of the atmospheric gas. So if I smell gas with my gas sensor here, it measures how much gas is in the air. If there's some, I open up all the windows, making sure it's all down to 0. Once the ambient air is down to 0, I test the appliance. And the first thing I look at is the union. The union is basically, if a technician was here previously, he would forget to tighten this. That's the typical place I find gas leaks. So I test that with this, or I use soapy water. It's a soapy water solution. And then I soap down the pipes, and if it bubbles, I know there's a leak. I either A, fix it, or B, call someone else to fix it and turn off their gas and say, call a contractor, because we don't want to be responsible. So yeah, this is a furnace. It heats up your home, and this is a hot water tank that heats up your hot water. So I test for both natural gas and CO. CO is carbon monoxide, and as we all know, that's poisonous. The silent killer, they call it.
Yeah.
So I put this, it's called the gas sentry. I put this on track gas, and I sniff around places like this, or the gas manifold, the most usual places for a gas to be leaking, and same thing with the water heater. If I still can't find a gas leak and I smell gas in the air, I would go to the meter and do what is called a manometer test. A manometer test tests whether or not there's a leak in the whole system. It's basically a gauge hooked up to the meter, and if it drops in pressure, we know it's losing gas somewhere. And at that point, I just shut off the gas of their meter and then issue a tag and say, call a contractor to find the problem for you. And if there's no gas leak, then I say, listen, if you smell the gas again, give us a call. A lot of times it's a false alarm. The customer smells anything but gas. I had a customer actually smell skunk.
Oh no.
He's like, is that what a skunk smells like? I'm like, yeah, welcome to Canada. So yeah, that's a day in the life of my hot calls. They're called hot calls. So welcome to my home. I live in a semi-detached home, 2-story, and I sleep upstairs. Now if you will follow me to my kitchen. I've lived in the same house for 23 years, so this is a new environment for me. The whole move and the whole experience. So there's not much to say. It's the kitchen. It's where I eat. Actually, most times I'm actually coming home late, so I just eat straight out of the fridge. Sorry, Mom. Now to my bedroom. This is where I have friends over all the time, and come home from a long day at work and sit down on my bed. My friends lie on the couch. Still have some renovating to do, but yeah. Very relaxing room. It was originally just a living room, but I decided to make it my bedroom. So, yeah, nice fireplace, 51-inch screen plasma. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but I'm a huge fan of Ferrari. Now, if you excuse me, I just got an emergency call. Customer smells gas in their basement. Take care.